Durst is present with his lawyers, and the People's Council are present as well. All of our jurors and alternates have returned. I know some of you had questions about the coronavirus epidemic and measures that are being taken, what measures we will take, and I'm in contact with the presiding judge of Los Angeles County, who's working with other officials to keep abreast of the latest. Right now, I assume we continue as we have, but we all need to realize that our responsibility to each other, really, and that means the frequent hand washing and staying home if you're sick and calling us. As far as social distancing of 6 feet, we can't quite do that, but we got some. It's not quite, but we do try to keep some space and do our best under the circumstances. I'll keep you apprised if there's any change. I appreciate your doing your duty, braving rain and epidemics to be here. We want you. We care about your health. I'm very concerned about your health and about our process here too. That's all I have to say right now. But I am very concerned. And of course, I'm without panicking. I'm very concerned, and I want to keep track of it, and I will share with you knowledge as I receive it. So with that, Mr. McCormack has returned to the witness stand, and I'll remind you that you're under oath. And we were, I think, Mr. DeGuerin, you were cross-examining the witness, and you may resume that.
Concluded and passed the witness, Your Honor.
Then, Mr. Lewin, you may continue then.
While Mr. Lewin is preparing himself, I had previously marked People's 25, Your Honor.
Yes.
I did it incorrectly. I've conferred with Robin. May I mark the stipulation as 25 and the registrar file as 25A?
Yes. Thank you for that correction.
Thank you.
Mr. McCormack, you were asked questions by Mr. DeGuerin in cross-examination regarding Kathie's studies. You were shown some evaluations that she received from the medical rotations. Do you recall that?
Yes.
You were also shown some of those materials dated back to the period of 1981. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you were asked questions about your sister having told a couple of different rotations that she had personal problems or was sick, etc. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And you were asked if you were aware, if you knew what that sickness or what that issue was about. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Are you aware that Mr. Durst, in his recorded interview with Jarecki and Smerling in 2010, said, quote, by 1981, the relationship had been reduced to fighting, slapping, pushing, and wrestling. Are you aware of that?
Yes.
And as you sit here today, not knowing of any illness with your sister or with your family, do you have an opinion as to what it was that was interfering with your sister's ability to report to her internships, her rotations? I think counsel opened the door and brought it up.
No, well, it's a lay opinion. I'll allow it. I will allow it. You may answer.
I may answer?
Yes.
Thank you. My opinion is if she's, as I said before, on record, on the road, she was enduring all these levels of abuse and they had escalated to...
I can't hear.
Can you hear me? If the abuse had escalated beyond the intellectual, the social, the economic, to physical, that to me would be a great reason to say, you know, I've got to get off that track, the education track, collect myself, and then go forward when I'm physically able to do so.
Thank you, Your Honor. No further questions.
Cross.
No, thank you.
Can the witness be excused?
Yes.
Look excused, Mr.
Yes, Your Honor.
You're excused, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Who's going to call the next witness?
Marion Watlington, Your Honor.
That's one T.
Please come stand in the witness stand. Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give in the counsel authentic before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. Please be seated. You just pull your seat closer to the mic, please. Your chair closer to the mic. Thank you. Please state and spell your first and last name.
First name is Marion, M-A-R-I-O-N. Last name is Watlington, W-A-T-L-I-N-G-T-O-N.
Thank you.
You may proceed, Mr. Lewin.
Thank you. Dr. Watlington, can you tell me what you do for a living?
Pardon?
What you do for a living?
I am a medical doctor, internal medicine, and work in Bermuda.
And when you say you work in Bermuda, I'm gonna make a wild guess, that means you live in Bermuda?
That's correct.
And is that where you, in essence, came from to testify today?
Yes, it is.
And can you tell me, how long have you been a physician?
I went to medical school at 30, and it's been over 40 years.
I won't make you go into any
No.
more than that. Did you have a career before? You're hiding your age well, Dr. Wiley.
Well,
Did you have a career prior to going to medical school?
I did. I was a registered nurse.
And where were you a registered nurse?
I trained in Montreal, in Canada, and I worked there in Bermuda for a short while, and then on into Ohio and Danbury, Connecticut.
And what did you do in Danbury, Connecticut?
I was in a marriage and lived in a nearby town, and I worked in Danbury Hospital and also for a short while at Western Connecticut State College in Danbury.
And can you describe what's Western Connecticut State College?
It's a state college there. I was looking to go on into medicine, and so I went and took a few courses from them and tried to find a pathway into medical school, which they were unable to help me with particularly. So I started looking at surrounding colleges and went down to Sarah Lawrence in New York State, Bronxville.
And when you say that you were at Western Connecticut State, were you working at that time in their nursing program?
No, I was not.
Can you tell me, at the time that you were looking to become a doctor, and you were coming at it having graduated, having been a nurse previously, was that a common or uncommon route to medical school?
Pretty uncommon. I didn't know anybody else who went that route.
And when did you first attend medical school, what year?
In 1977. So,
And I want to back you up, and I want to show you a picture. I want to show you what, we're marking the photograph, Your Honor, as People's 26. Do you recognize the person depicted in the photo?
yes, I do.
Can you tell me who is that?
That is Kathie Durst. And in 1977, do you want me to go on?
Yes, please. Let me just ask the question.
In 1977, I had graduated from Sarah Lawrence with a bachelor's degree and managed to get accepted into a couple of medical schools from there. But I had many months before I was able to go. the New York Times did an article on me and women returning to school, older students. And there was an article written by a reporter who ad-libbed and claimed that nursing was not good enough for Marion, so she went on into medicine. That particular article stirred up a lot of controversy about, from nurses, writing all the letters to the newspaper declaring nursing was an honorable profession and how could Marion be carrying on like this. So I went to Western Connecticut State College and met with the nurses there and said, no, I did not write that, I did not say that, and I certainly didn't agree with any of it. I wrote a letter in response to it, and I met the School of Nursing instructors and became friendly with some of them. Shortly after that, one of the nursing instructors who was doing courses in New York State, it was January or February of '77, and she was driving her car to the courses and flipped it on black ice and died. She had 2 young children, much like myself, at home, and it was a devastating loss for the college and a loss to me as a new friend. But anyway, the nursing instructors running the program came to me and said, is there any chance that you'd be willing to step in for the rest of the school year and teach the nursing students in her absence? So I agreed to do that, and they helped me to do the curriculum.
And is that where you met Kathie Durst?
She was one of my students within the class that I was teaching.
And can you tell me, if I were to ask you to describe Kathie Durst, first of all, as a person, how would you describe her?
I found Kathie delightful. She was extremely bright. I became friendly with her. She came to me shortly after I started teaching and said, I've heard that you're planning to go on into medicine.
Not for the truth of the matter,
No,
sorry.
I'm just
Marion?
asking, yes.
So let's proceed by a question and answer.
That's fine.
So far, this has been fine, but now let's move to shorter questions and
So,
answers.
when Kathie came to you, what did she say to you?
She said, Marion, I understand you're going into medicine, and that's exactly what I want to do too. So
What's the next thing that happened between you and Kathie?
we became friendly. I met with her outside of the school, and we talked at length about how she could manage to do that. I told her of my experiences and how I went about it. And I said, I think you can just follow in my footsteps in applying to the schools around the area where you live that you think you could commute to, and this is how I did it.
Is it fair to say that you served as a mentor to Kathie?
Very much so.
How much older, approximately, if you can recall, were you than Kathie?
How much older was I?
Yes.
I think it was 5 or 7 years, something like that.
And in terms of what Kathie was like specifically as a student, can you describe her as a student?
I was struck by how intelligent and how bright she was. She was head and shoulders over her other students around her. She easily grasped concepts and was alert and comfortable with the learning and the challenge of going on.
And as one of her instructors, are you aware, I'm not asking for her exact grade point, but how did she do?
She did very well.
If it were suggested, strike that, were you in contact with Kathie as she was applying to medical school?
Yes.
And did you have involvement in helping her prepare her applications?
No, she did that all on her own.
Did you discuss issues relating to applying and where she should go, what would make her a strong candidate, etc.?
Not really. She seemed to be more than capable of doing all of that on her own.
Based on what you knew about Kathie Durst, if it were suggested that Kathie only got into medical school because of family connections, what would be your response to that?
I would say that's just not true.
Your Honor, People's 20, do you have nothing? People's 25, do you have anything to hold on this? Tell me what you're using. 25A, Your Honor, is going to be, they are bait stamped, it's going to be 131382. I want you to briefly take a look, we're going to put up, this is a transcript, this is evidence that has already been stipulated to. And if you can, I want you to look at those grades. Just take a moment to go through them. And then I want you to tell me, to give me an opinion as to you think that these are the kind of grades that would merit admission into medical school based on your experience.
Well, they're all A's. I don't think you can go any higher than that.
And you indicated that Kathie was, you said, head and shoulders above the other students at Western Connecticut. Can you tell me, in terms of her attitude and demeanor, how excited was she about becoming a doctor?
She was just a delightful person to know. This was a big ambition of hers. We were two people heading in the same direction, and I found her to be very much motivated and intrigued and interested. She talked about being a pediatrician.
Did you, at that point in time, did you meet her husband?
Yes, Kathie and I became friends first, and I said to her, you know, I lived up here in...
All right, let's, so the question's not an invitation to tell that part of the story, rather, it's a very specific question that calls for a very specific answer. So listen to the question and answer only the question.
And I'll ask, you'll go through, I'll just ask you a question. You ready?
Yes.
So, based on your relationship with Kathie, did your husbands and you and Kathie interact as couples?
Yes.
And can you describe that, please?
We went out to a restaurant in Bethel, Connecticut. They had a home in Richfield, I had a home in Reading, Connecticut, and so we met sort of in between and had dinner one night.
And did you have occasion to meet Robert Durst on more than one occasion?
I met him, I believe, on 3 separate occasions.
Can you tell me, when you met him, if I were to ask you to describe how he treated Kathie during those interactions?
Mary, can we get a better foundation as to time and location?
All right, just be as specific as you can, and you've said that you've mentioned on those 3 occasions. So on those occasions, can you describe?
I think the objection, I think he's asking me to get the exact timing, Your Honor. My position would be he can get that on cross-examination.
Well, if you're speaking generally, then you may answer generally.
But,
I'm sorry, it's an impression.
okay, but I'm trying to find out what year it is, Your Honor, so I think it's important.
Okay, so Mr. Chesnock didn't get that part of it. Maybe I didn't hear it either. Tell me, David, let's be clear about what year.
The time when you met Kathie, if you remember, with Kathie and her husband and your husband, what year or years would that have been approximately?
Yeah, this would be in 1977. I know it's that year because I had graduated in '76 from school in the winter, December, and I ended up teaching at Western Connecticut State College in 1977.
So you were describing, I was asking you during your interactions with the defendant and Kathie, how did he treat her?
It was the 4 of us together, he just seemed very quiet, subdued, and that's about all I can say. Kathie was effervescent, friendly. We had a fun evening with Kathie, but I think her husband was just very subdued and sort of withdrawn.
Did he make any effort, based on your impression, to engage with either you or your husband?
He was sort of monosyllabic answers, you know. I just felt like he was, it was just a judgment that he was either very shy or not terribly interested. I, you know, just didn't know.
Around this time, did Kathie end up discussing her relationship with you? And that's a yes or a no.
Okay, yes.
And did these discussions happen when she would call you late at night on the phone?
Yes.
And when she would call you late at night on the phone, what was her demeanor?
She was clearly upset, and I think she was just calling to talk, and I would be on duty at the hospital.
I want to stop there because it's my error. I skipped forward several years, correct?
Correct.
So let's go to approximately 1981 and forward. Is that when, to the best of your memory, you were receiving these calls from Kathie?
That's correct. She was calling me, I think it was 1980, 81 kind of time period. Just random times, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 months in between some of the calls. And she would just call to touch base. We would talk about how she was doing, but she started to discuss her relationship.
All right, let me
with
stop you.
Robert.
I only want you to discuss the conversations you had with her about the relationship
Okay.
when she was upset or emotional. Were there any of those calls where she discussed the relationship?
Yes.
Can you
Yes.
please describe, to the best of your memory, was that on more than one call? Was it most of the calls, some of the calls, none of the calls?
A couple of the calls.
And as you sit here today, do you have a memory specifically as to when those calls were in 80 or 81?
They were towards the end of 81, the second half of 81.
And if you can recall right now, can you please indicate during those calls, what was Kathie's demeanor? Can you describe it, please?
Her demeanor was, she was just very angry, upset,
What was her tone of voice?
distraught.
Tone of voice?
Well, one, it's hard to say, you know. She was upset, I can say that. She told me, if you want me to tell you what she told me.
Your Honor, I believe just on the grounds of the court's prior rulings.
Yes.
Okay.
We just have the continuing objection. This is all hearsay.
What did she tell you, Doctor?
She told me that she had been beaten up by her husband, to the point where she had gone to the hospital, and they had taken pictures to document her injuries.
What did you say to her in response?
I was extremely worried for her. She said she wanted to get a divorce. And I was worried that she would be in further danger of being beaten by him and possibly lose her life.
Did you express those concerns to her?
Yes, I did.
And what was her response when you expressed those concerns?
She said, I'm going to leave him soon, but I want to stay for a little longer.
Did she explain to you why?
Yes, she wanted to get paperwork and things like that to justify a proper type of settlement from him in divorce proceedings.
If I were to ask you about Kathie's personality, and I were to say, do you know what the term doormat is? It's not a very nice term.
I do.
Would you consider Kathie to be a doormat or a stronger person?
She was no doormat.
With respect to her husband and the way that she talked to you on the phone about the relationship, did it appear that when it came to her husband and what she was telling you, was she the same strong person that you knew her to be?
I think she was walking tentatively around him because of the violence that was occurring.
When you expressed to her that you were afraid that it might escalate and that she might lose her life, did she say anything to reassure you other than, I need to get these papers, I need to stay?
She said, should anything happen to me, you make sure you don't let the bastard get away with it.
And let me ask you something. Is that a statement, doctor, that you're
That
saying
is
for
a
the...
statement.
Wait, let me stop you. Is that a statement? I know you probably know where I'm going, but let me just finish it. The statement you just said right now, is today in the courtroom the first time that you're saying that?
Yes,
The statement where you just said, say this again. You just made a statement where you discussed Kathie Durst telling you, she used the term bastard and, don't let him get away with it. 1 second. I lost my place here. That statement where Kathie said, if something happens to me, don't let the bastard get away with it. You just testified to that a moment ago.
yes,
You stated that to investigators previously before today in court, correct?
sorry, I misstated. This is the first time I've said it in this court. I did call when she disappeared.
Your Honor, excuse
There's
me.
no question, Kathie. Next question.
When have you said that statement before?
I called the police in New York when her picture appeared in the paper saying missing.
Let me stop you. Is that going to be back near when she disappeared in February of 1982? And who did you call?
There was a number in the New York Post in the article under her picture, and it was of the police, so I called that number.
And is your memory, was that the police detective, as far as you knew, who was handling the investigation?
I just spoke to an anonymous policeman, that's it.
And did you give the information that you have just related?
I did. I will never forget those words.
Did that detective, or did anybody from the New York Police Department follow up with you regarding your statement?
No, as far as I remember, I didn't even get my name or number to them. They were very quick to say, yes, yes, we've heard from other people about this, thank you very much, and hung up on me.
Dr. Watlington, if I were to ask you right now, the Kathie Durst that you knew, if I said to you, on a scale of 0 to 100, with 0 being almost an impossibility, and 100 being, oh no, that could absolutely have happened, what is your assessment, based on your knowledge of Kathie Durst, your conversations with her, near the time she disappeared, on the idea that she just would have abandoned her life and given up her career to be a doctor?
I'm 100%. She did not abandon her plan to be a doctor.
And in terms of, let me ask it this way. Your last conversation with Kathie, do you recall when approximately that would have been?
I think it was somewhere within that last month before she disappeared.
And do you remember you can recall, is that when the comment about don't let the bastard get away with it? Was it
That's
that call?
correct. That is correct.
And if I were to ask you, doctor, how sure are you of that memory?
I'm very certain of those exact words and that memory. And when I saw her picture in the New York Post, that was brought to my attention by the fellow students in her class, I had this sick feeling.
Let me stop you. I just want to ask you, doctor, if it were suggested that, you know what, you don't actually have that memory.
Excuse me, Your Honor, that's leading the witness.
It is not, it's a foundational to the question. I have to pose a hypothetical.
Okay, well, we'll see. Go ahead.
If it were suggested, doctor, that in fact, that's not your actual memory, that it's something you read, something you transposed, something somebody else told you, what would be your response to that?
I'd be completely disbelieving of you.
Thank you, I have no further questions.
Cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Afternoon, Doctor. We were almost classmates. Sarah Lawrence was a women's school at one time, correct? All women. And then in the 70s, they started admitting men to the pool.
That's correct.
So in about 1976, when I was applying to college, was one of the schools that I was accepted at, so I'm familiar with it.
I got into some schools too, but I wanted to get into.
We're gonna check on that.
You applied to Vassar also?
No, my best friend went to Vassar. He was smarter. I didn't go to the all-girls school.
Right.
I
Okay,
should have.
smart.
You've spent time speaking to Mr. Lewin and Mr. Valiant before you came to court today, correct?
Mr. Lewin.
Okay. How many times have you spoken to Mr. Lewin?
Your Honor, can we separate this other than scheduling?
You can recross.
Yeah, that's fine. It's entirely appropriate to speak to the lawyers. Go ahead, ask them how many times.
How many times have you spent talking to Mr. Lewin?
I'd say 4,
Okay.
5 today.
And at one time, did you have an interview that was conducted, if you counted, can you give me the date of that interview, please? February 17th of 2015, do you recall being interviewed?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I
And
was, I remember I was traveling in Australia at the time.
so they did it telephonically?
Yes,
And in the course of that interview, the subject came up about whether or not you would be willing to talk to Mr. Durst's lawyer. Do you remember that?
I don't.
Okay, do you recall telling Mr. Lewin at the time that you weren't interested in speaking to us? Do you recall that?
No.
Okay, we're gonna find that. I'm gonna move on to something else while that's located. So, you went out with Bob and Mrs. Durst on social occasions, did you not?
2, I believe.
Okay, 2 or 3, I think you said.
And the third was I was invited to their home at the time of Kathie's graduation from nursing school. She had a big party there.
So Bob threw a big party for his wife when she graduated nursing school, or her family threw it? Do you know?
It was at Bob's house. I assumed it was a party that the two of them had planned.
Okay, and which house?
Motion to strike is calling for speculation,
I'm sorry. Hold on a moment.
just in terms of who threw the party, Your Honor.
I'll ask it another way.
All right,
Was
strike the
the
answer.
party at Bob and Kathy's house?
Yes, in Ridgefield, Connecticut.
Okay. And nice house?
Nice house.
And Kathie was living a very nice lifestyle at the time, was she not?
Yes,
And that's because Mr. Durst, and in part, was able to provide her with that lifestyle, correct?
I have no knowledge of how they arranged their finances.
Well, you knew that Mr. Durst, to quote you, traveled in high circles.
I did. I knew that they lived in New York City, and they often were in social circles with the mayors and politicians of New York City. That's
Okay.
what I meant by that.
Okay, and when you were being asked about that by the law enforcement folks, one of the things that triggered was that in fact in those high circles, there was a lot of cocaine usage at the time. Do you remember that?
I was told that, yes.
Now, Kathie was a very friendly and gregarious person, correct?
Correct.
And as far as you knew, she was married to Robert Durst, correct?
Correct.
And that was her personal choice after deciding whether she was going to marry him or not, correct?
Yes, correct.
And so, on occasion, the 3 occasions you talked about, you kind of, I'm going to date myself, double dated.
Sorry?
Double dated.
No, we were just a couple of couples having dinner one
Okay.
night, yeah. I wouldn't call it dating.
Okay.
They,
That's fine, I
Yeah.
understand.
yeah,
And so, you're at dinner and you have this very kind of friendly, bubbly friend, colleague.
yeah,
And then you have Bob, correct? Is that a yes?
yes, that is a yes.
Thank you. And you said that you thought Bob seemed withdrawn, correct?
Correct.
You're a medical doctor, you're very well educated. Would you characterize Bob as being socially awkward?
Your Honor, that calls for an expertise and a foundation that's not been demonstrated.
Lay opinion.
Yeah, Your
No,
Honor, can we
I
clarify that it's lay opinion, not her as a doctor? That's my problem.
Right,
Can you
it's
do
a-
this on his examination when I'm finished, Your Honor?
No, it's an objection. If
Well,
you're
then make
finished,
an
it won't
objection and
apply.
don't speak.
Easy.
I'll
Objection
allow it
lacks
as a
foundation.
lay opinion. You may continue.
Thank you. Would you describe Bob as in part socially awkward? Your observation.
The first time I met him, I wouldn't call it socially awkward. He just sort of seemed shy, maybe sullen, maybe he was tired, maybe he was grumpy, I don't know.
But he wasn't quite as gregarious as your friend.
She was the gregarious one at that time. At their home, at the party, I found him more forthcoming.
In his own surroundings.
Yes, maybe. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I'm not an expert in this area.
I
by
understand,
any means.
but in your experience,
In my experience,
he was a lot happier in his home.
he seemed more at home there.
Now, during this period of time, and I apologize to some degree for going into this, but you were having your own acrimonious family problems. Is that true? With your husband?
No, that wasn't true.
You didn't go through a contested and complicated divorce with your husband?
Not at that time,
What,
no.
what time was that?
Objection relevance.
I'll get to it. What time was it?
Offer of proof, Your Honor.
Just to distinguish from that period, when was it?
I went through an acrimonious divorce in the 1990s.
I apologize, and I'll withdraw. From the context of your conversation, it seemed like it was more the same.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you talked to law enforcement describing a friend of Kathie Durst, a lady named Gilberte Najami? Do you remember talking about her to the police or to Mr. Lewin?
Yes, I remember when they talked to me in Australia in 2015.
Correct.
Yes, yes.
One moment, please. And when you were speaking to them, you described Gilberte Najami as being kind of a party person. Do you recall that? That she threw big functions?
This was 5 years ago.
Or even not when you spoke to them? Do you
Yeah,
remember that now?
I remember Gilberta Najami. I met her after Kathie disappeared. I'd heard of her. And I met her after she disappeared. And, probably 2 or 3 of us got together and we're asking each other, where could Kathie have gone?
Okay, but
She
you
was
don't,
missing, you know?
but
Well, let's pause a
focusing,
second, just pause a second. Can
Go
you
ahead.
speak directly into the microphone? I'm
Yes.
not sure everyone can hear you.
but focusing on the question, did you know Mr. Jolly to be a person that had parties?
I knew that she catered parties.
Okay. And did you describe Gilberte as Kathie Durst's love friend? You remember saying that?
No, I did not describe her. She was described to me as possibly her love friend. I had never heard that before.
Who described that to you?
Your Honor, this is absolutely irrelevant. Here is
Um,
under 352.
This is
Offer
the-
of proof, Your Honor?
This is the home that she was at the night that she came back to the house on the 31st, Your Honor.
Okay, well, move on from this.
Okay. So who told
When
you?
when I spoke to Gilberta, she said we had a party planned for Kathie, or we wanted her to come to a party, and it was at Gilberta's home. But I think Gilberta was gay, and I think she had a partner, but that's about all I know.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
When Kathie told you about her troubles, were you a doctor at the time?
No, I was in training, you know.
Did you ever report to any authority, either at the school or law enforcement, any of your concerns as a result of the phone conversations that you had with Mrs. Durst before the call you say you made to the police after January 31st?
Never.
So your friend is telling you about all these, according to you, bad things that are happening, but you never reported it to anybody, did you?
No. There
Did you
was-
ever tell her to seek a counselor that you recall?
We talked at length about, you know, I was so worried about her being beaten and
You're not answering my
trying.
question. Did you-
No, I don't know that I did, I might have.
Thank you, I'm not trying to be quarrelsome, but you have to listen, Chris, and try to ask
Yep,
pretty tight questions.
right.
Now, on these occasions where you spoke to her on the phone late at night, you've acknowledged that she was drunk, correct?
She was drunk on one occasion, I
Okay.
can tell.
And she was going on and on and on, was she not?
She was,
Okay, and now as a medical doctor, is talking a lot, going on and on, sometimes consistent with cocaine use?
Oh.
Excuse me, is that an objection?
Absolutely.
Really?
Sustain.
I think it's
Sustain.
consistent.
I'm sustaining it.
Okay, what, I'll, whenever you want me to talk to you about it, Laura, but she's a doctor.
You can establish a foundation for her expertise in drug abuse if you believe she has it. Go ahead.
Doctor, in your experience as a medical doctor, have you been trained on the effects of narcotics on people?
I have done some training in that, I did not have that training at the time.
But now, do you have that training?
I did,
Okay, and are you familiar as a result of your training of the effects that cocaine has on people?
somewhat, yes.
Okay, and are you aware, as a result of your training, that cocaine can cause people to talk excessively, incessantly for long periods of time?
Yes,
Now, at some point in time, did she tell you that she was afraid Seymour Durst was going to kill her?
Objection relevance, Your Honor. Also, it's hearsay. Absolutely.
State of mind, overruled.
Your Honor, I believe that's a third-party culpability.
I don't think so.
Can the jury be instructed then as to how they cannot use that information?
Yes, so let's see what the answer is.
Did she tell you that?
She was wary of the family a little bit, yes.
And she told you that Seymour Durst she was afraid Seymour Durst was going to kill her in one of these conversations, correct?
Your Honor,
I
the
think-
same objection, Your Honor, if the court
Okay.
considers it.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, this line of questions any affirmative answers would be not to prove that Seymour Durst killed Kathie Durst. The point would be to suggest that any other statement she made was to rebut other statements. In other words, a paranoia. So I'm allowing it for a limited purpose. It's not for the truth, it's for a state of mind in fear of being killed by someone.
It's on page 26 at 923.
If you believe that evidence. It's for you to judge what you believe or don't believe, but that's the reason I'd allow you to consider.
Your Honor, they can't consider it for any way, shape, or form that in fact Seymour Durst killed.
Right, as I said.
Just want to make sure that's.
No.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We're just talking about the different things that Kathie has said. And she was worried that the father was going to kill her. Remember saying that? That he
Yes,
asked?
I do, yes.
You were very close with her. Did she describe any affairs that she was having?
No, I didn't discuss that.
Did she once tell you that she felt she was being followed? You recall that?
Gilberta told me she felt she was being
Oh, it was
followed.
Gilberta.
Yes.
So, okay. Thank you. Notes. Is Albert Einstein considered a highly competitive medical school to get into?
It's an excellent school.
Do you know of any other schools that you got into?
No, I don't.
So the only school that you know that you got into was Albert Einstein?
Where she
correct?
went, yes.
I have no further questions. Thank you, ma'am.
Redirect.
Doctor, I'm sorry. Thank you, doctor.
Doctor, you were asked questions about the way that Mr. Durst was acting, and Mr. Chesnoff suggested, brought up shyness, brought up comfort in his home. Do you recall those questions?
Yes,
Based on your interaction with Bob Durst, was his behavior also consistent with just being a jerk?
yes,
You were also asked questions about the effects of cocaine. Do you recall that?
yes,
Do you recall being asked if somebody is speaking very fast and upset? Do you recall those questions?
yes, I do.
Doctor, in your experience, have you ever treated or cared for individuals who've been victims of domestic violence at all?
Yes,
Was Kathie Durst's conversations on the phone where she was emotional and speaking fast, was that also consistent with somebody who was terrified?
very much so.
Was it consistent with somebody who was being abused?
Yes,
You were also asked about whether you had reported the domestic violence. Do you recall those
I
questions?
do.
Back in 1981, Doctor, were things the way they are today in terms of the societal understanding of domestic violence?
No, they weren't.
And what was it like being a young woman, a young female physician? I want you to assume that you have a young female physician who's in a relationship involving domestic violence. Is that going to help that person in their career to have that known?
Not at all.
Objection to that question, how she can form an opinion about whether it's going to help in her profession or not.
She is a physician, Your Honor.
Oh. You may answer.
It is not helpful.
Can you explain why, based on your
At
training
that
experience?
time, domestic violence was really ascribed to the women, to the woman being at fault.
You were also asked if you had, why didn't you call the police? Do you recall that question, Bob?
Yes, I certainly did. Mhm.
If you had it to do over again today, would you call somebody? If you could do it today, knowing what you know, would you call?
Yes, I might, but it's not so much calling. I would have tried to get her out of the home more forcefully. I didn't know her family, but that kind of thing. I think I would have tried harder, perhaps.
Mr. Chesnoff brought that up to you. Over the years, have you at times thought about, maybe, not that it's your fault or not that you could have changed it, but have you thought about, gosh, what if I would have done something different?
Objection, Your Honor.
Your Honor, counsel opened the door by
Grounds.
asking the question.
Grounds.
Objection, Your Honor. Well,
Grounds.
for an opinion of her, and speculation.
Speculation, overrule.
Can I answer or not?
You may.
All right?
Also, one other, Your Honor.
Yes?
You let her.
Leading, okay, let's see.
I'm trying to keep up with the multiple.
Right, okay. Overrule. You may answer.
At that time, I was in medical school. I had 2 young children at home. I was driving an hour to school each way, and I was up every 3rd night through the whole night. I was hanging on my fingernails at my own education to get to where my dreams lay. And I really didn't have the energy or anything else. All I could do was support her on the phone and listen to her and encourage her to seek the help she needed.
This is my last question. Mr. Chesnoff just brought up that issue of you not calling the police, you not doing more in a sense.
The police were pretty...
Wait for the question.
Is that something that you thought about before Mr. Chesnoff asked? In other words, is that something that you've been haunted by?
Not at all. I'm not.
And why is that?
Because I found that police at that point in my life were pretty unreceptive.
Thank you.
Mr. Chestnut.
Court's indulgence.
Court.
I'm thinking.
Go ahead.
I may not have a question.
Okay.
No, I'm good, Your Honor. Thank you.
All right. May the witness be excused?
Yes.
Agreed? Excused? Mr. Chestnut, you agreed the witness may be excused?
Absolutely. Safe travels.
Doctor, you're excused.
Your Honor, regarding the issue we were speaking about before, also Penal Code 1343 as well.
Do you want to do that to set up?
You know what, I think, Your Honor, it's gonna take, I don't think it's gonna take too much time. No, just a second.
Not yet?
Yeah.
Ready to call your next witness then?
Yes, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. You may call your next witness.
Thank you. The people call Virginia McKeon.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly state that the testimony you're about to give and the cause and opinion before this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Please be seated. Please state and spell your first and last name.
Virginia M. McKeon, McKeon. There's the Virginia too.
Yes.
Virginia. The middle initial is M as in Mary.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Berlian, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. How are you feeling?
Nervous?
Yeah. You expressed that to me yesterday. What are you nervous about?
About being here and being in the same room with Mr. Durst.
Do you know Mr. Durst?
Yes, he's my ex brother-in-law.
Do you see him here right now?
Excuse me?
Do you
Yes.
see him here?
Yes, I do.
Can you please just point towards him and tell us what he's wearing right now?
He's wearing, it looks like a light blue suit jacket and a white shirt.
Identifying Mr. Durst, the defendant.
Thank you. What is your maiden name?
McCormack. Kathie McCormack.
Is
Do I
Jim-
spell that?
No, it's okay. Unless, does the court reporter need it? No. Is Jimmy your brother?
Yes. My older brother.
And we've heard there were 5 siblings in the McCormack family.
Yes.
Where do you fall in the order?
The middle child.
Yes? What is the order?
Carol, Jen, Minnie, Mary, and Kathy.
Are you working right now?
No, I'm retired.
What are you retired from?
From my local school system.
What was your job?
I was a paraprofessional, a teaching assistant in Hamden,
In Hampton?
Hamden, Massachusetts, where I live.
Okay. For how many years did you...
About 20. Did a few different things here and there, but about 20. I had gone back to get my degree, and then I got back into the education.
Okay. Are you married?
Yes.
And how long have you been married?
Hopefully it'll be 54 years in May. So aim.
Well, do you have children?
Yes, yes. We have 2 boys. Jim is, he'll be 50 on Monday, and Brian, he's 48.
Grandchildren?
Yes, yes.
Yes. Do I keep going? Great-grandchildren? No.
No, no. Not yet. I haven't blessed that much.
Let's just start off. I just want to... Tell me about the McCormack family. What was it like being a McCormack growing up?
I thought it was great. We had, when I look back, it was a regular, happy, middle-class family. You know, my dad went to work and my mom was able to be home with us, you know, to raise us. So we had I felt a nice time, you know. We played and, you know, we were close as we can be, with, you know, siblings. And, yeah, it was a nice family. You know, so really,
What did your dad do?
my dad worked for the telephone company. He was a service representative.
Okay. How old were you when he passed?
I was going to be 21, right before my 21st birthday. Yeah, 67 he passed.
How old was your mom when she passed?
How old? My mom?
Yeah.
My 102 and a half.
What year was that?
That was in 2016. I'm sorry.
When you say you guys were close, let's talk about physically, first of all. Your physical proximity to each other growing up. How big was the house you guys grew up in?
It was a 3-bedroom house. It was a nice house, you know, but we were in Brooklyn until I was 4, so I don't really remember, you know, a whole lot about there. But when we moved to Hollis, it was a nice house, you know, 3 bedrooms. We had, Jim had 1 room and my parents, and then there were the 4 girls were in 1 room.
4 girls shared 1 room and Jim had his own room? That doesn't seem right. How many bathrooms were there?
1. Well, actually, on that house, there was actually a half bath. I forgot about that. But, yeah, just 1. But at that time, I don't know, it wasn't a major issue that I recall anyway.
Okay.
You know, some other bedrooms where, you know, we only had 2 closets. But it was enough to, I guess.
Okay.
As I said, we were happy.
What types of things growing up would you guys do together as a family?
With our relatives, didn't live too far, you know, and so we'd get together for Sunday dinners and, you know, just outings, you know, it was a big thing. You weren't as mobile as you are today, so, you know, to go to a park or a picnic or something was really a treat. So we'd do things like that with the relatives and our neighbors, you know, just, yeah, that type of thing. And then we were very lucky, like in the summertime, we got to go up to the lake. My grandma had a cabin, 2 cabins up in the Poconos, and so we got to go up there for, you know, at least usually a month during the summer, which was really a treat.
Who would go for those months during the summer?
The whole family, yeah. My dad would plan his vacation and stuff. It was kind of rare, I think, that he didn't go. You know, maybe he might go to work for a week and then come back up. So I think it was about a 3-hour drive from our home.
Would your mom go?
Oh, yeah. Oh, of course. Well, she had gone as a child. And because my grandma, when she went up with, it goes back, so, they kind of settled this lake. They were one of the first ones on the lake, and so they built houses and stuff. So my grandmother had gone, and then my mom had gone as a child, and then it's just been passed down. Yeah, so.
Did all the siblings go on these month-long summer trips?
Until my sister Carol got a job, and then she would come up on the train. So.
She would still come up
Yeah, for the weekends. Yeah, bring her girlfriends. Yeah.
when you started to have children and your sister Mary started to have children. Were your children and Mary's children close in age to each other?
Yes, yeah, they're pretty close, yeah.
Would you bring the kids up there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that was the best, yeah.
Yeah.
We'd have a ball. We have really good memories and a good place, a really happy place.
Would Kathie be up there with you and your children and Mary and her kids?
At times, yeah. She was at times. She was, she was doing her own life and whatever, she was busy and whatever, but yeah, we would be together and, just have silly times, good times.
I have a photograph and I marked this as People's 27, Your Honor.
Yes.
I'm showing you what's been marked as People's 273.
Yeah.
You recognize that?
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
Kathy.
Do you know where this picture's taken?
Well, it's in the woods somewhere, and it looks like it's at the spring. Because I used to go down and get water down, it could be down at the spring. That's what it looks like. Probably, it looks like a sieve though, so she's probably washing something.
And when you say the spring, is that over in the lake?
Oh, that was on the lake, yeah, because we had the house was, the outhouse was up the hill and the spring was down the hill, so, then there was another spring that a lot of people went to the lake.
How much, from your experience with your sister Kathie, how much did she enjoy this family time together?
I think she really enjoyed it. I mean, I don't know, we all did. We had a great time together. And, we were a family. And it was great to get out of the city, and to go up to the lake. We always felt that was so special. So we always had a good time.
Did she like to fish?
Oh, yeah, we all did. We fished, she liked to fish, she liked to swim. That's where we learned to swim. And, just a good time, a good place. We had down at the local Cuckoo's Nest, it was a bar, we'd have square dancing every Wednesday night, and that was always a big, kind of fun thing.
Let me stop there.
Yeah.
Would you spend holidays together with all the siblings?
Yes, when we got married,
I'm sorry, let's talk about just leading up to her going away to school, to moving into the city.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, because we were home, yeah, so, when we were home. But Kathy was 6 years younger than me, so my husband and I, we moved to New England when we got married. And so we were down as much as we could as far as holidays and stuff. But yeah, holidays were really good. And then Halloween was a big thing from, our families. We had Halloween parties. And
What was special about Halloween?
just it was fun to be silly and dress up and, and then share it. And then as we were having kids, the kids would, to have dunk, the apples and, the donuts on a string and that type of thing. So it was just a fun time. We got together as a family, just loved to have a good time, and a lot of laughter and silliness.
And when you say we like to get together as a family and have a lot of laughter together and silliness, was Kathie a part of that?
Oh, yeah.
Did Kathie enjoy it?
Yeah. I have pictures of her.
Yeah. How close was Kathie to your mother?
I think very close. That was my mom's baby, so she was a baby, and so I think she was very close, definitely.
I have a photograph. May I mark this as People's 28, Your Honor? We had another photo. Do you recognize the people in that picture? So, I believe, let me find this other picture. First put up People's 23. I'm going to put up People's 23 first. Okay. You see People's 23? Do you recognize the people in that picture? Yes?
That's all of us.
Okay. That's your mom laying down in front?
Yeah, that's Grandma.
Okay. Kathie's in the middle.
Yeah.
Are you in this picture?
Yes, I'm over to the side. Little boy is looking at me. I'm right over.
Oh, you
Like
turn around
that,
looking up
yeah.
at you?
Then my husband is next to me. Yeah.
Okay. Who's the little boy?
Let's see. think that's Mark. That's my sister Carol and Mike's youngest son.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we go back to People's 28. Showing you People's 28. The woman in the glasses in the middle, is that your mother then I
That's
take
my
it?
mom. Yep.
So who's the woman seated to her left?
That's my grandma. That's her mom.
So this is your grandmother, your mother, and her family.
Right. That's all my sisters and Jim's there. I'm not in this picture.
Okay. In People's 23 and People's 28, it's a photograph. People are smiling. People look happy, but people generally smile for a photograph.
Yeah.
What I want to ask you is, these photographs and the smiles you see, are these for a camera, or is this representative of what your family was like when they were together?
That's the way we were. That's the way we are. We're easy smilers. When we smile, we tend to, I think we kind of look alike.
What was Kathie like growing up?
Okay, she was 6 years younger than I was, so, we were kind of in little, not different worlds, but, I was older and stuff. But, she was my baby sister, and she was, I can't remember any major issues or, that type of thing. We played and...
What was her personality?
Her personality, she was, Kathie, she just was special. There was something about her that, she was really intelligent, she was bright gal, and she liked to try things and do things, and fun to be with. She was lots of fun to be with. She liked it. I can remember, like she wanted to play the guitar, so she got a guitar, and she would try things. She liked to surf on the beach. She would go with my brother, and they'd surf down at Jones Beach and that area.
Was she brave?
Yeah, she was. Yeah, she was like a go-getter. Yeah, she definitely was, and she, She had a lot. I think she had a lot of confidence, more than I think. When you think back when you're a teenager, there are times when you have a lot of confidence and then you don't.
How close was Kathie to your children?
She was very close. As far as logistically, we were in Massachusetts and she was in New York, but we were close, and she loved the kids. She was the best aunt for her nieces and nephews. She really enjoyed them.
Yeah. What types of things would she do?
Well, she loved to. We'd visit, of course, and she'd come up to see us. But she loved to read with them and play with them, play ball and stuff. And I can remember my sons. They were very inquisitive and whatever, and so she got them a special science project that would be sent every month to the kids, and then we'd do science projects with them. Yeah. But she liked to just encourage the children.
Was there a point in time in your life where physically you kind of just separated from Kathie a little bit?
Oh yeah, physically definitely, yeah. Well,
would that be when she moved to New York?
I wasn't home when she moved to New York. I was gone by then. We moved to New England when we were in '66 when we got married.
Okay.
And then Kathie moved to the city later on. So she was a teenager, like kind of there.
And you had a family?
We started a family, yeah.
Kathie didn't have children?
No.
So you're leading kind of the married lifestyle?
And she's a single young gal, and it was kind of, fun to talk to her about it and stuff, It was exciting because that wasn't my life, but then she loved to hear about, what was happening with us. So we're just,
So would you say you spent the same amount, less, or more time with her when she met Robert Durst and got married, that period of time in her life?
It became less and less, but the early years of the marriage, we saw each other, we'd go to each other's homes, like for a weekend or something. It wasn't a day type of thing because of the distance. But, so we got together, but it got less and less because, my life was going a certain way and hers was going a certain way, so. But they were still at my mom with parties, the Halloween parties and stuff, which would kind of gather us together again.
Would you see her and Robert Durst together in the beginning of their marriage?
Yeah, oh sure.
How did they seem?
They seemed fine. They seemed happy. I mean, he was my sister's husband, so they seemed okay. I can't.
Did you welcome him into the family?
Oh sure, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where we are.
Did their relationship appear to you from the time that you saw her to change over time with Robert Durst?
Yeah, she was really happy. She was in love, she was really happy when she first married. I know she was. And then gradually, I think she wanted more. She wanted to, you know, to accomplish more, I think. I think this is what happened with Kathie. She wanted to accomplish more. And so, you know, she wanted to go to nursing school, and that seemed to change. That seemed to alter a little bit. I didn't see them a whole lot, you know, together. You know, I would see her more so than Bob. You know, at like my brother's wedding, I saw him, you know, but it wasn't that they were coming to the house for the weekend or anything like that. So.
And so when she was in medical school during those years, did you see her much less frequently?
Yes, oh, definitely.
And even though you didn't see her that often when she was going to medical school, would you have communications with her?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we always kept in touch, but it was so totally different when I reflect back on it. This was prior to the social media, whatever. And so we would definitely we'd call on the telephone, but it was a time when the telephone was, you had to pay. And you had to pay, and so we would wait, like, you know, after 7 at night was the cheaper rates, and then on Sunday was the cheaper rates. So we tended to call then, but we did a lot of letter writing. That was our thing, that we loved to write letters. And I don't have her letters, which I wish I did, but yeah, that was the way we would communicate with all my sisters, because I was a distance, you know, I wasn't in the New York area.
So even though physically you weren't close to her when she was in medical school, did you still feel close to her emotionally?
Oh yeah, she was my sister.
And could you tell based on your interactions with her that she still felt close to you?
I think so, yeah, definitely, you know. As I say, our lives are going different, so it's different, you know, types. You know, as you go through life, it's all different ways that you interact and you are together.
Your sister disappeared on January 31st, 1982, right? Is that it?
Yes.
When's the last time you spoke with her prior to that time?
It was sometime in January, a couple of weeks before she was killed, and she called me, or I called. I really it's kind of fuzzy, but we're on the phone like for 3 hours, and I can still remember physically. I was sitting on the floor. We had just gotten new carpet, and there was no furniture, so I was sitting on the floor talking to her for like 3 hours, just talking.
I didn't want to interrupt her.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Move
Yes.
to strike or kill. I was not responsible.
Just a moment.
She did say she was killed. When you say that, is that just your belief?
Yes, yeah, oh yes.
Still no strike.
All right, I will strike the answer. It was not responsive to the question.
Have you seen Kathie since January 31st of 1982? Has she attended any of these Halloween celebrations since that date? Did you continue to have them?
As much as we could, yes.
Did she attend any of the milestones in your kids' lives over the years? If she was alive, would she have been there for your children during their important times in their life?
Oh, I'm sure, yes.
If Kathie were alive, would she have attended your mother's funeral?
Oh, gosh, yes.
If Kathie were alive, would she have attended your birthdays, or called you on your birthdays, or wrote you a letter on your birthday throughout the year?
Oh, I'm sure she would have.
If Kathie were alive, would she have reached out and had some form of communication, no matter what it was, throughout the years, to let you know, hey, I'm okay and I'm still out here?
Yes, I have no doubt.
Do you have any doubt in your mind that your sister is dead?
No.
So I want to go back to this conversation that you had with her 2 weeks before she disappeared. Tell us what Kathie was saying to you during that telephone conversation.
Best that I can recollect is she was very upset and very sad, and this had been, you know, noticing certainly for months and months with this conversation. She just was so, she wanted out, but I don't think she knew. She was so confused, it seemed, and just, and you know, I'd say to her, I said, Kathie, just leave then. You know, if you're so unhappy, just leave. You can live with Mom, you know, you'll get through it. She was like 3 months away from graduating from school, and you know, and I said, you can do it, you know, and then she was a strong person, so it's like, you can do this, Kathie, but she was so so conflicted as far as, you know, leaving. It was just a real rough time that I can remember.
Did she tell you why she wouldn't just leave?
Well, she wanted to get her due. She felt, you know, she was kind of a, I'm, you know, to get a settlement, I guess, or whatever for, from the marriage, because she wanted to be, she was independent, she wanted to be independent. And, so I don't know, there could have been, you know, I look back and I think there might have been just some feelings of love here too. You know, as much as they weren't getting along and all, but I wish I could tell them.
It's okay.
You speak into the microphone.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I think everybody heard you, but maybe not. So I want to make
Okay.
sure your words are heard. That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
During this call, she expressed her unhappiness in the marriage.
Yes.
You told her just to walk away, leave, finish school. Is that yes?
She could have done, yes, she could have done that. That's what
And
we
are you
wanted so
saying
much.
she told you she couldn't leave because she wanted to get what was due to her?
Yes.
You've seen different TV shows over the years relating to this case.
Oh, yes.
You've read different media accounts.
Yes.
Yes. How certain are you as you sit here today that what you're telling this jury is what you heard with your own ears, you saw with your own eyes, and not something you read or watched somewhere else?
You know, I saw it. You mean the shows and whatever? And yes, yeah.
You know what I'm asking you?
I'm sorry. I'm pretty sorry.
The things you've told us about Kathie today,
Yes.
are you telling us those things because you saw them somewhere, read them somewhere, or because you experienced it?
Oh, no, I experienced it. She's my sister.
These things you've told us today that you heard her say to you on the phone 2 weeks before she disappeared, are these things that you saw in a movie or read in a magazine?
No,
Why are you telling us those things?
because you asked me to.
Is that because you heard those
I
with
heard
your own
it,
ears?
yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
Cross-examination?
Yes, sir.
What time? Should we take a break first? How long do you think you might be? You
I'm not gonna be long, but I could take a break.
want to take a break now? All right, then, ladies and gentlemen, do not converse among yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected with this case. Do not form or express any opinion on the case. We'll return at 3:15. Don't discuss your testimony with any other witness. Let the jurors speak first.
Your Honor?
Yes?
Before we release the jurors,
Yes.
can we